The dark truth about Columbus, secrets history books hide. Welcome to the History Uncovered, where we bring forgotten truths back into the light of day. Today we're exposing the dark truth about Columbus and the secrets that history books deliberately hide from you. Stay with us until the end as we reveal shocking facts that will forever change how you view this controversial figure. Don't forget to subscribe and support our channel as we continue uncovering the stories they don't want you to know. First, the myths surrounding Columbus's voyage. The story we were taught in school portrays Columbus as a visionary hero who proved the earth was round. This narrative is one of history's greatest distortions, designed to create a mythology around European exploration. In reality, educated Europeans already knew the Earth was spherical for over 1,000 years before Columbus sailed. Ancient Greek mathematicians had calculated the planet's circumference with remarkable accuracy centuries before his birth. Columbus wasn't seeking to prove anything scientific, but was desperately hunting for a western route to Asia's riches. His calculations about the Earth's size were actually wildly incorrect, underestimating the distance by thousands of miles. Had the Americas not existed where they did, his crew would have perished in the vast Pacific Ocean. The ships departed from Palos de la Frontera in August 1492, carrying 90 men crammed into 3 small wooden vessels. Conditions aboard were brutal, with rats infesting the supplies, diseases spreading rapidly, and near mutiny threatening daily. The crew lived on hardtack bread crawling with weevils, salted meat that had turned rancid, and stagnant water. These sailors weren't brave adventurers, but often desperate men fleeing debt, criminal charges, or grinding poverty in Spain. Second, the brutal reality of colonial governance. When Columbus returned to Hispaniola as governor, he established one of history's most tyrannical colonial regimes. He implemented a tribute system forcing every indigenous person over 14 to deliver gold dust quarterly to Spanish authorities. Those who failed to meet the impossible quota had their hands severed as punishment and warning to others. Spanish soldiers wore their swords openly through villages, creating an atmosphere of perpetual terror among the native populations. Columbus ordered the construction of massive fortresses using enslaved indigenous labor who died by the thousands from exhaustion. The stone walls rose high under the Caribbean sun while workers collapsed from heat, malnutrition, and brutal beatings. He personally oversaw public executions designed to demonstrate Spanish power and crush any thoughts of resistance among natives. Indigenous leaders who protested the tribute system were hanged in the town squares while their people watched helplessly. Columbus's brothers, whom he appointed to positions of authority, proved equally ruthless in their administration of the colonies. They burned entire villages suspected of harboring rebels, leaving nothing but charred remains and scattered bones behind them. The Spanish settlers themselves grew alarmed at the excessive cruelty, eventually sending complaints back to the royal court. Third, enslavement and the indigenous tragedy. Columbus initiated the transatlantic slave trade by shipping indigenous peoples back to Spain in chains aboard his vessels. On his second voyage, he sent 500 captives to Seville, where half died during the horrific journey. The survivors were paraded through Spanish streets like exotic animals before being sold in markets to the highest bidders. He wrote to Spanish monarchs proposing the enslavement of all indigenous peoples as a commercial enterprise to fund expeditions. Columbus personally participated in slave raids, leading armed expeditions into villages to capture men, women, and children indiscriminately. Families were torn apart as young women were taken as concubines and strong men forced into mining operations. The indigenous Taino population of Hispaniola numbered approximately 300,000 when Columbus first arrived in their lands. Within 2 generations, systematic enslavement, disease, and massacre reduced their numbers to fewer than 500 individuals remaining. Columbus introduced the encomienda system, granting Spanish colonists control over indigenous laborers in a form of legalized slavery. Native peoples worked in gold mines from sunrise to sunset, their bodies breaking under impossible demands and conditions. Those attempting escape faced hunting parties with dogs trained to track and tear apart fleeing slaves without mercy. Fourth, Columbus's desperate final years. By his third voyage, Columbus's reputation in Spain had deteriorated significantly as reports of his brutality reached court. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella sent an investigator who arrested Columbus and shipped him back to Spain in chains. He spent weeks imprisoned in a dank cell, his status fallen from celebrated explorer to disgraced criminal awaiting judgment. Though eventually released, he never regained his former authority or the vast wealth he believed he deserved from discoveries. Columbus became increasingly unstable, claiming to hear divine voices commanding him to continue his missionary work in distant lands. He wrote bizarre letters to the Spanish monarchs, mixing religious delusions with demands for gold and noble titles. His fourth and final voyage ended in disaster when his ships became stranded on Jamaica for over a year. The crew survived by trading with indigenous peoples, the same people Columbus had previously enslaved and brutalized without remorse. Columbus died in 1506 in relative obscurity, still believing he had reached Asia rather than discovering a new continent. His final years were spent in bitterness, writing obsessively about the wealth and recognition he felt had been stolen. Few mourned his passing, and his burial location was moved multiple times before being lost to historical records entirely. Fifth, the legacy that history tried to bury. For centuries, historians deliberately sanitized Columbus's legacy, transforming a brutal colonizer into a celebrated hero of exploration. This myth-making served political purposes as nations justified their own imperial ambitions by Leonizing early European explorers. School textbooks omitted the slavery, the massacres, and the complete destruction of indigenous civilizations under his governance. The Columbus myth taught generations of children that European conquest brought civilization to savage lands needing enlightenment and Christianity. Primary documents, including Columbus's own journals, reveal the calculated cruelty and greed driving his actions in the Americas. His legacy includes not just geographical discovery, but the blueprint for centuries of colonial exploitation and indigenous genocide. Modern archaeological evidence continues uncovering mass graves and destroyed settlements, testifying to the systematic violence of his rule. The debate over Columbus Day in America reflects growing awareness that celebrating him honors a legacy of oppression. Indigenous communities whose ancestors suffered under his regime have led movements demanding historical accuracy and recognition of their trauma. Some cities have renamed the holiday Indigenous Peoples Day, acknowledging the perspective of those who experienced colonization firsthand. Understanding the true Columbus requires confronting uncomfortable truths about how conquest, slavery, and genocide shaped our modern world. The shocking truth about Columbus reveals how history can be manipulated to serve powerful narratives while burying uncomfortable realities. These facts challenge us to question other historical myths and examine who benefits from sanitized versions of the past. The History Uncovered will continue bringing you these eye-opening revelations that change how we understand our world. If this video opened your eyes to hidden history, please like, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more content. Share this with others who deserve to know the truth that classrooms often refuse to teach our generation. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history's darkest secrets at the History Uncovered.